Your car probably doesn't do that. So why does that happen? Chances are is that the car is modified. And that's a very distinct and recognizable feature of the build and modify car culture. So let's talk about cars in general for a start. Cars are critical for transportation and daily life for many people, and while some see them as accessories, others see them as projects, connections, hard work, determination, and dedication. To understand how important car culture is to the people, we need to understand more about those who take part in it. Let's take a jump back in time and look at how this car culture developed and who was influenced by it. So in the late 1940s and the early 1950s, following the end of World War II, returning veterans with mechanical expertise from the war began modifying old cars, such as the Ford and Chevrolet, making them faster, lighter, and giving them redesigns. This was known as hot rodding and started primarily in Southern California before quickly spreading across the United States. Later in the 1960s and 70s, the muscle car industry took over as large companies like Ford, Dodge, and Chevrolet created their own powerful performance cars, such as the Mustang, Charger, and Camaro. However, even these factory-built monsters were continuously modified by enthusiasts who performed engine swaps, adding nitrous systems, modifying air intake systems, and many more. Then by the 1990s and 2000s, a large rise of import tuning brought Japanese cars like Honda Civic, Nissan 240SX, and one of the most famous ones, Toyota Supra. These cars were light and easily customizable. They were often modified aesthetically for street racing and underground car shows. These cars often sported wide-body kits and custom exhausts with flame tunes. The growth of this subculture grew exponentially with the Tokyo Drift and Fast and Furious films, as they brought the underground culture to light. Finally, in modern day, a combination of many different styles of car building exists and connect. Car shows today often portray sections or exhibits with different classes and styles of cars, but the entire culture of building and modifying cars shares a common vision and value. So why exactly does this culture resonate so deeply with me? I am part of a team called Vision Racing where we're building our own formula car. So all of the work that I put in, all of the results that I see, and all the experiences I get to share all have a reflection of joy towards me. So for example, one of the main parts of my job as the lead engineer is reconstructing the engine and assemblies. So when I reassembled that engine and I finally got it to run, there was an immense satisfaction and a joy that the effort I put in worked and that there's progress and results. And being able to share that with my team and the people around me was another joy that I didn't expect to see from this kind of project. To understand exactly why this culture brings people like me joy, we're going to look at three main categories. The first category is going to be creativity. The second is expression, and the third is satisfaction. Let's begin by assessing creativity. The build and modify car culture relies heavily on hard work, dedication, and ideas. This culture revolves around people who put in time, money, and effort into designing, fabricating, and assembling a car. So this creates a purpose for people in a deep connection with their work, and they find joy in the process and successes of their journey rather than the final result. One of the articles called Junkyard Jamboree, Hunting for Automotive Treasure in the 20th Century, describes that not every enthusiast actually owns a show-worthy car, but the pursuit of automotive perfection is central. People focus on the journey and trying to make it perfect, portraying their creativity and joy through the process. The article also mentioned that these people were all modifiers. They took their cars and transformed them into unique machines of their dreams. So they were able to portray their creativity and joy through the building of a car. Additionally, the article Car Use Less and Must, Instrumental, Symbolic, and Effective Motives for Car Use described that male drivers more often compared their commuter travel with others and thought the car was more important for their self-expression than female drivers did. This shows that for the male audience and the male members of the build and modify car culture, they see the car as a source of creativity, and there they can funnel their joy. Finally, the article Driven by Personality, exploring the relationship between custom cars and self-expression, noticed that society describes enthusiasts and practices as people who seek attention for their loud engines and flashy car colors, but they don't mention the pleasure behind putting in the effort and work into achieving these outcomes. So I completely agree with this statement. Personally, when I'm working on my car, the work and effort that I put in is a reflection of my creativity, which brings me joy, but it's also an intermediate success that brings me joy. These little stages of perfection and accomplishment bring joy as a result of that creativity put in. The next point of interest, and perhaps one of the most notable ones, is expression. Results of the hard work in the creative process are often another part of this culture. They are examples of expression and self-identity, as these cars and the modifications done to them reflect the owners that put in that effort. So these cars are taken at car shows and they're shared with the general public and the community, where people can see other people's accomplishments and compare and connect with like-minded people. So in the article Junkyard Jamboree, they mentioned that in the mid-1920s, these hot rodders who raced their cars on the dry lake beds began to meet at scrap yards on weekday afternoons to exchange information and learn more about other people's cars. Over time, a common theme persisted where people would come out and share their products or share their experiences, whether it be online or in person, and create a sense of community and joy through that mutual understanding. The article A Vehicle of Expression described how the modified lowrider car placed emphasis on both aesthetics and social gatherings because it tells society about the owner's social status, taste, and personality. Similarly, it mentions how import tuning gatherings provided an environment for which car owners could live their lifestyles that their vehicles portrayed. Bringing their cars out to car meets, people could share who they were. They'll reflect on their personal ideas and emotions and belongings, and they would convey that to other people through their work. So these cars were more than just a project, they were a sense of community and understanding with other people, generating joy from that mutual connection. Another article that supports this is the blue-collar creativity or framing custom car culture in the imperiled industrial city. It describes how custom car builders deployed sophisticated aesthetic judgments and practical knowledge in the transformation of cars into expressions of personal and collective identity. So they use these cars to show their identity and to explain it to the general audience and the people that they meet at car shows. We do the similar thing with our car when we go to a Caffeine and Octane car show in Georgia. It's one of the biggest and it takes place every month. And we like to go around and look at other people's cars, the different brands. There's different sections for cars. There's sports cars, supercars, there's trucks, Jeeps, every different type of modified car. There's a set little community for it, and we can go around and connect with them and explore our identity and their identity that they show through their car. Finally, let's cover satisfaction. So people feel satisfaction from the finished result, which it could be the fast car literally flying around a track, or a car with a crazy speaker setup, depending on what you choose to build, reflecting your personal emotions and connections. So in the article Car Use, Lust and Must, Instrumental, Symbolic, and Effective Motives for Car Use, a study was conducted to understand why people value cars. And they focused on the main reasons for practical use, for what they say about identity, and the joy of driving itself. And the research determined that the people who find the joy of driving in itself also say that it reflects their identity. So the people who modify cars and have a sense of identity about their car and put in their creative and emotional aspects, they also feel the joy of driving the car itself, physically showing that the results of their work can be a stimulus for the joy that they feel. In the article A Vehicle of Expression, the author describes how these gearheads felt an almost mystical connection to their cars, this quasi-religious, thoroughly romantic sense of identification with the machine as a source of meaning in one's life was not confined to fiction. This shows that the connection that a person makes through the process makes the result infinitely more fun and enjoyable for the person. The Blue Collar Creativity article also reflects this by stating that custom hobby cars were artifacts of collective investments of time, energy, creativity, money, and skill, dedication, and persistence personified. They became a source of pride and optimism for people. So the result is a look back, a reflection of all the things that you've done, and seeing that your efforts have not gone unnoticed and that your efforts have become reality, and that your car finally drives, which embodies your spirit and your ideas and your creativity. This brings you immense joy seeing that everything that you've done up to that point has finally worked out and that your final result is free for you to use and have fun with. Now that we've discussed the different aspects that bring joy to the build and modify car culture, let's take a look at people who experience this on a daily basis. To do this, we're going to be interviewing two members of the Vision Racing team to understand how they perceive the build and modify car culture and how it supports the findings that we discovered today. Why did you get involved in building a formula car with Vision Racing?
It was a chance to apply my creativity and problem-solving skills to something hands-on and to be a part of a real engineering challenge.
I've always had an interest in watching F1 races and observing how high-powered cars work and perform, and I had a deep passion for engineering as a kid in high school. I knew this was something I would love and I had to be a part of.
Do you enjoy being part of the team? What brings you this joy?
Absolutely. Everyone brings different strengths and works together towards a shared goal.
This whole experience has not only been very knowledgeable to me, but it's also been very fun, and I got the opportunity to make a lot of new friends, and I feel like this team is a one-of-a-kind experience.
What do you enjoy most about building this kind of car with like-minded people?
Being around people who are just as driven and curious as I am. We're always learning from each other, sharing ideas, and solving problems together. That kind of collaboration makes the process even more rewarding.
Seeing the actual progression of this project, because like me, all of these people want to see the project become a success, and seeing everyone put in the work every day for that to happen is really enjoyable to me.
Does your joy stem from physical aspects such as building or designing, or also from the emotional and social aspects such as the community sharing and interactions?
Both. I love the hands-on challenge of building and designing, but the emotional and social parts really complete the experience. Sharing wins, pushing through setbacks together, and forming real relationships make the project feel meaningful on every level.
I love seeing the physical and design development of the car progressing. It brings me a deep sense of accomplishment and excitement seeing this. But at the same time, I really enjoy the outreaching and exposure events we do from a social aspect.
Hearing to personal experience from the build and modify car culture, we determine that creativity can be an example of self-identity in this culture and exploration of personal achievements and growth through the learning process. They show passion for what they love and the pride for their work, and working with others in a community and sharing the feeling with others in the team establishes connection and expression. Feeling that being in a culture of people who enjoy the process and modification of cars brings a higher level of joy to these two members. And seeing the effort put in and a common sense of purpose between them and the rest of the team brings joy to literally everyone involved. Finally, intermediate successes and results from the build, from the process, bring satisfaction to everyone involved, knowing that their work paid off and the effort they put in actually was worth it. With a final word from John, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and thank you.
Being part of this project has helped me understand the mindset and creativity behind the build and mod culture. It's not just about the car, it's about the process, the teamwork, and the passion that goes on into every detail.